Upon waking up, Fang Zheng became a prison guard and was fortunate enough to have the ability to perceive information from all things. A prison sword that contains evil energy, with a slightly sharper blade than an ordinary one. If you want to strike yourself, you are sure to be energized in an instant way. Zhongxian, a demon whose magic has been abolished, contains the true blood of the Qilin in his body. He is ruthless and cunning as a fox. Wang Teng, a student of the Beidou Academy, possesses a part of the immortal emperor's inheritance, a strong Taoist spirit, multiple supreme immortal techniques, and the blood of the immortal phoenix. He possesses the nirvana divine ability of the immortal phoenix family, a solitary and proud personality, and strong strength. Immortal Technique Fragment page, containing the supreme immortal technique, nourishes with one's own essence and blood, and refines the elemental spirit to obtain the true technique. You can try practicing it. The key to the immortal ancient ruins can be unlocked by breaking the seal with essence and blood, and cultivating it with mana for 10 days. With the key's induction, one can enter the immortal ancient ruins. The true meaning of the immortal emperor, containing the Tao of the great Luo of the mixed Yuan, can refine the true meaning and help you stabilize your own power, and the Tao of the great Luo. Chongqing Road, Blood Sea Road. White bones turn into boats, soaring into the sky. This is a story of humble beings gradually becoming immortal emperors. Keywords of the novel. I can perceive information about all things without pop-ups. I can perceive information about all things. Download the complete set of TXT, I can perceive information about all things. Read the latest chapters. Chapter 1. Insight into Everything. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1. Insight into Everything. Yongdu. Heavenly Prison. Fang Zheng woke up quietly, opened his eyes, and the scene before him stunned him. On one side of the dark corridor, there are lit oil lamps hanging on the walls, while on the other side, there are prison cells. In each cell, there were unkempt criminals lying on grass mats. A smell surged in, and in an instant, Fang Zheng became conscious. I looked down at myself, dressed in black clothes with a long knife hanging from my waist. Among the black clothes, there is a prominent big character. Prison. Dressed up like a prison guard. Fang Zheng. Am I dreaming? Just as his brain was experiencing some downtime, suddenly, a huge memory flowed into his mind like a torrent, quickly merging with his memories. With a muffled groan, Fang Zheng's face suddenly changed, his body leaning against the wall, and his face was very ugly. In the 19th year of the Tianxi reign, during the reign of Emperor Yong, the capital city of Yong was guarded by prison guards. Integrating memories, Fang Zheng instantly realized where he was. Looking at the dark corridor and then at the dim cell, Fang Zheng knew he had crossed over. Not only do they know their own identity, but they also know what kind of world this is. This is not the ancient world he is familiar with, but a world full of demons and monsters, a world of immortality in chivalry. And he, on the other hand, was a prison guard in the capital city of the Daong Emperor, Tianlao, named Bingzi. The prison guards in the prison are hereditary. Fang Zheng's father was a prison guard who died a year ago, and his mother passed away at a young age, inheriting his father's position. Fang Zheng became a prison guard in the heavenly prison. Yongdu Heavenly Prison. There are 3 levels in total. A, B, C. The number of prisoners imprisoned varies greatly depending on the level of prison. But even the lowest tier C-class prison, the criminals held here are all demons and monsters. There are people and demons. Time flies to become a prison guard. Fang Zheng couldn't have imagined it. In such a place, there are various mean and evil spirits that are overwhelming. Ordinary people cannot serve as prison guards. Over time, their bodies cannot withstand the erosion of mean and evil spirits. A serious illness will definitely lead to ascension to heaven. Only with a certain level of cultivation can one serve as a prison guard. And Fang Zheng is a prison guard with a 9th grade cultivation. A prison guard with the rank of Class C is not as demanding as Class A and Class B. Serving as a prison guard in a Class B prison is generally only possible with a rank of 8. And the A-class prison is even more terrifying. The criminals here are all monsters with great magical power. However, before being imprisoned, the cultivation of these criminals had already been abolished. Piercing through the bones of the Pipa, no matter how majestic you were before, here you are just a small servant. Knowing the information, Fang Zheng looked at the dark cells and his face unconsciously changed. Although the criminals here have abolished their cultivation, they are not ordinary people either. It's not easy to serve as a prison guard here. A wonderful world. But it's also full of danger. Take a breath and mutter to yourself. Retrieving his gaze, Fang Zheng turned around and walked towards the outside of the prison. Stepping out of the dark corridor, the light shone in. Above the sky, the sun hangs in the air. Being in a place full of yin and evil like the heavenly prison, even standing under the sun, doesn't feel much warmth, but it's actually better than being inside. Glancing away, there were several prison guards wearing black prison uniforms with him not far away, gathering in groups of 3 to chat. 1 or 2 prison guards saw Fang Zheng and nodded at him, and Fang Zheng also nodded in response. There are actually not many prison guards, but more of them are external guards. Each performs their own duties. The responsibilities are also different. Fang Zheng is responsible for patrolling the prison, guarding prisoners, delivering meals, and a series of other tasks. Divided into 2 shifts, while Fang Zheng is responsible for the day shift. Among the many prison guards, the 9th grade cultivation is average and ordinary. Those who step here are basically in the 9th grade. Looking around, Fang Zheng didn't leave too far and turned back. Occasionally ventilation is possible, but the position is responsible. You can fish, but you can't go too far. Of course, his task is simple, he patrols around and can rest for a while. It can also be considered a fair and upright fishing experience, which is better than standing still as a guard. Entering the dark corridor, Fang Zheng sat on a nearby stool to rest. A cold and gloomy aura emanated. Staying here for a long time, even with cultivation, it's not that comfortable. Sitting on the stool, Fang Zheng lowered his head and pondered on his future plans. Do it honestly. It seems that this is currently his best choice. Although he is a prison guard, at least he is also a public official. Don't worry about food and clothing. If I resign from my position, it won't be easy to venture outside, demons and monsters. Although this is the capital of the Emperor Yong, it's not a completely peaceful place. Let's do it for now, let's talk about it later. With a sigh, Fang Zheng restrained his mind and stood up. Just as he stood up, Fang Zheng's gaze suddenly froze. His gaze fell on the prison knife hanging from his waist. A clear line of font suddenly appeared in Fang Zheng's eyes. Shining brightly, very clear. A prison sword that contains evil energy, with a slightly sharper blade than an ordinary one. If you want to strike yourself, you are sure to be energized in an instant. Fang Zheng. What is this? My golden finger. Looking at the font appearing on the prison knife, Fang Zheng suddenly froze. Standing in place, Fang was looking at the font, and it took him a moment to react. Looking at the glowing font above the prison knife, Fang Zheng frowned. Golden finger, but what's the use of these golden fingers? His gaze shifted and he looked straight at his right hand. A right hand that can shake flowers is very flexible. Due to frequent exercise, the floodlit font reappears in the eyes. Fang Zheng. No, can I see the information of any item clearly? In a sudden moment, Fang Zheng regained his senses and his expression changed for a moment. Insight into the information of all things. This doesn't look much. But what kind of world is this? A world full of demons and monsters. If one can insight into all object information, then it's not a chicken feather. Retrieving his gaze, Fang Zheng looked up at the first cell and turned his gaze to the criminal inside. Su Wen, a former deacon in the Ministry of Rites, had an 8th rank cultivation before but was abolished. His consciousness is depressed and his spirit is a bit abnormal. It's best not to get too close, maybe he will bite you. Fang Zheng. Looking at the font presented, Fang Zheng's heart twitched slightly. Is this ability a bit tricky? Retrieving his gaze, Fang took a step forward and walked again to the door of the second cell. Looking at a disheveled criminal in the cell. Scattered long hair, sitting on a grass mat with whiplash marks on his clothes, as soon as Fang Zheng appeared, the criminal also looked at him. Unlike the first criminal's gaze, this guy's gaze was somewhat sharp. Looking at Fang Zheng, he licked the corner of his mouth. Although his expression was haggard, there was a hint of evil in his eyes. At the entrance of the prison cell, Fang Zheng looked at the font appearing on the criminal's head. Wu Mingfei, originally a 7th grade cultivator, is a demon from the heaven and earth cult. He practices demon magic and has a tendency to kill people. He likes to kill people to death and has a hobby of dragon yang. His evil energy is likely to shock your spirit, so it's best for you to be careful. Fang Zheng. Looking at the criminal in front of him, his heart twitched and his stomach was churning. Long Yang's hobby, this is really a fag. Nausea. Looking at the criminal's gaze, Fang Zheng almost didn't spit it out. Zheng Gu, I'm hungry. Looking at Fang Zheng, the criminal's hoarse voice rang out. Don't feel like eating today. Fang Zheng's face turned cold, he left a sentence and walked towards the third cell. Wu Mingfei. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Which Way Zhongxian's Insight into True Blood. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2. Which Way Zhongxian's Insight into True Blood. The dim corridor was filled with only the flickering candlelight on the walls. Fang Zheng walked through cells one by one. He is able to discern information from every criminal. A layer of 18 cells, all of which are insightful to the heart. Most of the imprisoned criminals are demonic people who practice magic. The crime is heinous. Go take a look on the second floor. Looking back, Fang Zheng immediately took a step towards the underground steps. Class C Heavenly Prison. There are 3 layers in total. Also detained according to different strengths before. The more ferocious the criminal, the more he is imprisoned deep. Descending from the steps, there is a dark corridor in the middle. At the top, there hangs candles emitting light. It looks like an oil lamp. It's not just an ordinary oil lamp, but a special type of oil-based light that can burn continuously for a long time. On both sides, criminals are being held in every cell. But it's not together, it's being held separately. The criminals here will soon be taken away, either killed or used for other purposes. Basically won't stay long. Imprisoning together may lead to being killed by other criminals, which has a precedent. Although everyone has abolished their cultivation, it doesn't mean you've lost the danger. The demonic secret technique is very eerie, and it's hard to guarantee that there won't be 1 or 2 moves. Wu Hong, a half-human and half-demon who has been abolished from cultivation, a demon under the Black Lotus cult, cultivates demon laws and is inherently cruel. His gaze turned to the criminal in the first cell, and the font reappeared in his eyes. After seeing it clearly, Fang Zheng walked towards the second cell. Wu Yingyuan, practicing an ancient method, although his cultivation has been abolished, it should not be underestimated. He may still have a second hand, so you'd better be careful. Backhand. Through the prison door, Fang Zheng looked at the criminals on the straw mat. The criminal also looked up at Fang Zheng with a very calm gaze. Well, this guy doesn't seem to be worth it. Retracting his gaze, Fang Zheng felt a chill in his heart. Having a backhand is definitely not something he can afford to provoke. On the second floor, there are 30.6 cells, and the square guards patrol one by one to gain insight into the information of each criminal. Not a single one is missing. All the information is clear to the heart. Go to the third floor again and take a look. Walk to the end of the corridor and continue down the steps. The top criminals of Class C are held in the third tier of detention. He wants to see what's different, although he has memories, he wants to see it for himself. Go down the steps. The third layer is broader. There are a total of 81 three-story cells. However, not all criminals are being held, some are empty, and only about 2/3 of the cells contain criminals. The cold here is even heavier. The evil energy is also heavy. He can't stand staying here for too long. Step forward and gain insight into the information of each criminal. During the time of burning incense, the vast majority of criminal information was recorded in Feng Yu's heart. He is basically aware of this special ability. As long as you want to look and shift your gaze, all information will be presented. The last one. His gaze turned to a prison cell, and Feng Yu's expression was solemn. If he remembers correctly, the criminal being held in this last cell should be the strongest in a Class C prison. I also have an impression of the name. Wei Zhongxian. This had to remind Feng Zheng of the ancient times of his world. Same name. But others are eunuchs. And this one, no, is a fierce and powerful demon. The crime committed is rebellion. He is a rebel leader. I would have been imprisoned in a higher level character. However, for some unknown reason, I chose to be imprisoned in a Class C prison. Of course, he definitely doesn't know exactly why. The level is too low. Stepping up to the entrance of the cell, Feng Zheng looked inside the cell. On the grass mat, an old man with gray hair sat cross-legged, leaning against the wall and closing his eyes to rest. The pipa bones on both shoulders were pierced by special magical tools, bleeding profusely and continuously, making people shudder. However, this gray-haired old man had a calm and unmoved expression. And this criminal is the strongest criminal detained by Class C. Wei Zhongxian. Its previous strength can be said to be much stronger than that of criminals in Class B prisons. Before delivering food, Feng Zheng hardly spoke and put it down before leaving. Wei Zhongxian, a demon whose magic has been abolished, contains the true blood of the Qilin in his body. He is ruthless and cunning as a fox looking at Wei Zhongxian, the fawn appeared in his eyes. Qilin's true blood. Feng Zheng's gaze fixed, and there was a slight shock in his pupils. Kirin blood. Does this guy actually have Kirin blood inside his body? Qilin, even in this world of immortality and chivalry, it is a top-notch existence. Rare in the world. The existence of driving alongside the real dragon. A supreme existence comparable to immortality. Wei Zhongxian's body surprisingly contained Qilin true blood, and Feng Zheng couldn't help but feel a beat in his heart. At this moment, Wei Zhongxian, who had been keeping his eyes closed and focused, suddenly opened his eyes. A ray of fine light flashed through the murky eyes, looking towards the square outside the prison cell. "Kid, what are you looking at?" A hoarse and deep voice sounded, and Wei Zhongxian's voice reached Feng Zheng's ears. "It's nothing, it just depends on the senior's experience." Feng Zheng regained his senses and spoke up. Wei Zhongxian surprisingly contained Qilin true blood in his body, which surprised Feng Zheng very much. Where did he get the true blood of the Qilin? Is it difficult for him to have the ability to hunt and kill Qirins? But is this possible? Qilin, this is an existence that surpasses the first grade and drives alongside the supreme immortal. Will Wei Zhongxian, who has the ability to hunt and kill Qilin, be imprisoned and have his cultivation revoked? Is it funny? If there were such strength, perhaps even the emperor of Daong dynasty would not be a match for Wei Zhongxian. This Qilin has true blood, there must be another origin. As Feng Zheng spoke, Wei Zhongxian narrowed his eyes and looked at him. Being stared at by Wei Zhongxian, Feng Zheng inexplicably felt a chilling sensation. This old demon, even losing cultivation, is not easy to provoke. Fang Zheng felt a chill in his heart. Although he wanted to obtain the Qilin blood inside Wei Zhongxian's body, he knew he didn't have the strength to take. Maybe we'll have to risk our own lives. Although I want to be reborn, the prerequisite is to ensure my own safety. What's the use of asking for Qilin's true blood when his life is gone? Abandoning cultivation, who knows if Wei Zhongxian has any successors? As the strongest criminal detained in Class C prison, a skinny camel is bigger than a horse. Fang Zheng understands this principle very well. Senior, take a break slowly. I'm leaving now, Junior. Fang Zheng was about to turn around. But at this moment, Wei Zhongxian's voice once again echoed into his ears. Kid, wait a moment. Fang Zheng turned around and looked at Wei Zhongxian in the prison cell, saying, Do you have anything else, Senior? Wei Zhongxian said, I don't have much time left. How about seeing you destined? How about giving you a chance encounter? At this moment, Fang Zheng was stunned. Give him a chance. Fang Zheng looked at Wei Zhongxian, wondering if there was something wrong with his ears. This demon, so kind. After regaining his senses, Fang Zheng stood at the entrance of the prison cell, looking at Wei Zhongxian and saying, I am foolish, I don't know what the senior means by saying this. Fang Zheng was able to perceive the Qilin blood inside Wei Zhongxian's body. Of course, he couldn't be so foolish as to speak up on his own. You must pretend to be confused with clarity. Do you know the Qilin? Wei Zhongxian looked at him and said. This old demon, are you really going to give him Qilin blood? Is it possible? With a mist in his heart, Fang Zheng looked at Wei Zhongxian and said, Of course I know, that's a divine beast on par with dragons and phoenixes. Wei Zhongxian nodded and said, Do you know that Qilin true blood has the effect of rebirth and transformation? Fang Zheng lowered his head and pondered slightly. There are records in ancient books that the true blood of the Qilin can forge the foundation of the supreme Tao and transform oneself. Even if a useless person absorbs true blood, they can still become a genius. It seems you know quite a bit, Wei Zhongxian smiled. What do you mean by asking these questions, Senior? Fang Zheng looked at Wei Zhongxian and said. Send you Qilin blood, let you transform yourself and step on the path of immortality. Wei Zhongxian spoke. Fang Zheng. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. Follow the plan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. Follow the plan. Send him Qilin blood to transform him. Fang Zheng looked at Wei Zhongxian in prison, his gaze fixed on him. The Qilin is truly blood and reborn, and he believes in this. The Qilin, comparable to a true immortal, exists with a drop of true blood and is easily transformed. But Wei Zhongxian has such kindness. Fang Zheng was instantly alert. This statement filled him with 100% suspicion. This is a demon, although his cultivation has been abolished by the leader of the Heavenly Supervision Department. For him, he is still a behemoth. A skinny camel is bigger than a horse. A little means is enough to make his life worse than death. Heartless and ruthless, cunning like a fox. Fang Zheng wouldn't believe this guy would be so kind as to give him Qilin true blood. Senior, you really know how to joke, Fang Zheng said after regaining his senses. Wei Zhongxian's face remained calm as he looked at Fang Zheng with no waves in his eyes. My foundation has been destroyed, and my life is not long. I see that you are doing well, so I am willing to send you a fortune. As soon as the words fell, Wei Zhongxian's eyes suddenly burst into a divine light and he opened his mouth to spit out. Puff. A baby fist-sized purple gold blood floated out, being pulled up by a mysterious force and suspended in mid-air. A powerful and palpitating aura permeated from the purple and golden blood, and in an instant, Fang Zheng's whole body was boiling with qi and blood. The blood in his body seemed to be summoned by some kind, flowing rapidly as if it was about to break through his body. Buzz. The few mana in his body burst out instantly, and it was only then that Fang Zheng suppressed the churning qi and blood in his body. It's unbelievable that a lump of blood has such an effect. It must be Kirin's true blood without a doubt. But is this cunning fox-like demon really so kind? Fang Zheng's heart was filled with vigilance. At this moment, Zhongxian, who spat out the true blood of the Qilin, his hair quickly turned white, and in an instant, it turned snow-white. The wrinkles on the skin instantly increase, and the essence and spirit of the whole body seem to have been extracted, almost on the verge of death. Looking at Fang Zheng, Zhongxian's hoarse voice sounded, "Kid, I see that you are destined. I will give you this drop of Qilin true blood. One drop of true blood is enough to transform you." Fang Zheng's expression remained unchanged, his gaze fixed on the floating Qilin true blood. The next second, the font appears in the eyes. Qilin true blood contains incredibly powerful power that can strengthen the body and forge an unparalleled foundation. However, you need to be careful as there is a strand of primordial consciousness lurking within the true blood. If you rashly refine it, you may be taken away by the primordial consciousness. You can try to eliminate the primordial consciousness first and then refine it. The font appeared in the eyes, and Fang Zheng's heart trembled. Good guy, now he understands why Zhongxian is so kind. He generously gave him the Qilin true blood, with the intention of taking advantage of his refining of the Qilin true blood to seize the elemental spirit. At that time, it may truly be reborn through physical means. Indeed, he is an old thief. A chill filled Fang Zheng's heart. The vigilance has become even greater. However, the prompts appearing in the information have methods to eliminate the consciousness of the primordial spirit, which means that as long as the consciousness of the primordial spirit is eliminated, he can truly obtain the true blood of the Qilin, refine the true blood, and forge an unparalleled foundation. Kid, true blood won't last long. I'll remind you, after you go back, it's best to quickly refine it, otherwise you'll waste the power of true blood. Looking at Fang Zheng, Zhongxian spoke up. I'm afraid your primordial consciousness won't last long. This old demon is indeed cunning. Upon hearing these words, Fang Zheng muttered to himself, but on the surface, there was no fluctuation. Is Zhongxian's plan successful? It can be said to be very successful, but no matter how successful it is, I never expected Fang Zheng to have insight into everything. Senior, do you really want to give it to me? Fang Zheng pretended to be shocked and said. Of course. Zhongxian nodded, and a hint of joy appeared deep in his pupils. After speaking, the true blood of the Qilin floated out automatically, and Fang Zheng carefully wrapped it with magic. Even wrapped in magic, Fang Zheng can still feel the surging power within. The Qilin true blood is not a problem, it is genuine, and the problem lies in the hidden elemental consciousness within it. The aura of Kirin's true blood was quickly suppressed by his magical power, although it was impossible to achieve it with his own magical power. However, Zhongxian's spiritual consciousness was secretly helping. I'm running out of time, kid. Hurry up and go back to refine. I hope I can see you successfully refine true blood with my own eyes, which can be considered as understanding my wish. Looking at Fang Zheng, Zhongxian said in a hoarse voice. His expression became even more lethargic, as if there was a possibility of dying at any moment. Thank you very much, Senior. Fang Zheng replied with a grateful expression, Senior, I will bid farewell first. After refining my true blood, I will come back. Go ahead, Zhongxian said weakly. Fang Zheng didn't talk nonsense and turned around before leaving. Puff. Watching Fang Zheng's departing figure, Zhongxian suddenly spewed out a mouthful of bright red blood, and his pale face looked even paler. The Heavenly Supervision Department. When I am reborn with my body, I will surely destroy it. A wicked smile appeared on his face, wiping the blood from the corners of his mouth. Zhongxian continued to sit cross-legged and rest with his eyes closed. Now, he is only one step away. As long as this jailer refines the true blood of the Qilin, it will be his rebirth day. He believed that this guy couldn't resist the temptation of Kirin's true blood. Not to mention that a 9th grade person cannot resist, even with the same cultivation as before, they cannot resist the temptation of Qilin's true blood. Stepping out of the prison, Fang Zheng arrived outside. Borrowed a small bottle from his companion, and Fang Zheng put the obtained Kirin true blood into it. Purple golden blood, condensed but not dispersed, even thicker than mercury. Shaking the bottle, looking at the Qilin true blood inside, Fang Zheng's face showed a smile. For others, this may be a troublesome matter, but for him, it is not too troublesome. As long as you go out and purchase materials that will destroy the consciousness of the primordial spirit after leaving the class, you can truly refine the true blood of the Qilin. If it weren't for this cheat, I'm afraid he wouldn't have gained the true blood of the Qilin. Perhaps Wei Zhongxian was truly reborn through his physical condition. At the moment of Yushi, Fang Zheng left the class. After hastily having a meal in the cafeteria of the prison, Fang Zheng changed his clothes and left the prison. In about 15 minutes, passing through the heavenly prison area, Fang Zheng arrived at the nearest neighborhood. Yongdu City is very prosperous. As the capital of the Daong dynasty, it is very lively here. On the street, the flow of people shuttles back and forth endlessly. Come on, take a look, take a look. Our store is offering a big treat today, and all items are discounted by 20%. Our store has top-notch treasures today. Everyone, come and take a look, there's no time to miss them. On the street, listening to the cries of various vendors, Fang Zheng was lost in thought. Although I remember it, witnessing it with my own eyes is another matter. Although there are demonic and chaotic times, Yongdu City is still relatively stable. Turning a few streets, Fang Zheng arrived at the entrance of a shop. The decoration is not luxurious, and there aren't many people coming to the store. Fang Zheng glanced at the door and followed suit as he stepped into it. Welcome to Yuanbao Pavilion. What do guests need? Stepping into the store, a man with a horse-like face immediately stepped forward and looked at Fang Zheng with a smiling face. I want to buy something. Fang Zheng spoke and finished speaking, then he took out a piece of paper filled with some material names. Vermilion sand, realgar powder, phosphorus bone. Taking the paper, the man with a horse face looked at it and said, Sir, we have all these things in our store. Do you need them all? Well, I'll take everything. Fang Zheng nodded. Okay, guest, please take a seat first. I'll arrange it for you. The man with a horse face smiled and immediately sat down on the chair, holding the list and walking towards the second floor. Watching the man with a horse face go upstairs, Fang Zheng picked up a teacup and took a sip of hot tea. All the materials on the list are purchased according to the prompts. In order to prevent accidents, Fang Zheng specially purchased double copies. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Black God Mantra, Seeking Support. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4. Black God Mantra, Seeking Support. A regular tea cup has no value. A century-old mahogany table already has a hint of spirituality, cultivated for thousands of years, can transform into a demon sitting on a chair waiting. Fang Zheng's gaze scanned the store. The table, tea cups, and other items in the store, as well as people coming and going, were occasionally checked by Fang Zheng. Most of them are cultivators. A cultivation level of around 9th grade and 8th grade. Within the city of Yongdu, people with cultivation can be seen everywhere. Jiupin is just the lowest level cultivator. Refining essence and washing marrow, the peak of most people may be the 8th grade of marrow washing. If you enter the 7th grade, then you are considered an outstanding person. After a stick of incense, the horse-faced man who had left earlier appeared with a cloth bag. Fang Zheng also stood up. The man with a horse face stepped forward and placed a cloth bag on the table, handing Fang Zheng a piece of paper with the prices of various materials on it. Guest, you have everything you need, a total of 30.5 taels. Just give 30.5 taels. 35 liang. Taking over the list and looking at the detailed prices, Fang Jing frowned. The price is a bit above expectations. All his silver is only over 20 taels. Looking at Fang Jing frowning, the man with a horse face spoke up, Sir, this price is already the lowest. The prices in our store are definitely fair to all. Can your store recycle things? Fang Jing pondered for a moment and looked up at the man with a horse face. Of course, we can recycle items in our store, but we need valuable ones. The man with a horse face hesitated for a moment, then came to his senses and said. Let's see how much this is worth. Fang Jing took out a jade pendant from his pocket and handed it to the man with a horse face. 100-year-old ruby, with a hint of spirituality, wearing it can make people calm and concentrate, and also has the effect of dispelling evil spirits. The information about the red jade pendant appeared in the eyes, and Fang Jing had already seen it. This red jade pendant is a family heirloom from its predecessor. But now, Fang Jing is short of money, and family heirlooms must also be sold. The true blood of the Qilin is too important. If these materials can erase a strand of the spiritual will of Wei Zhongxian, then it cannot be compared to a red jade. Is it okay? Watching the man with a horse face carefully examine the red jade pendant, he spoke square. Sure, this piece of red jade should be good, but the specific value needs to be determined by our professional appraiser and given a specific price. If the customer doesn't mind, can you follow me downstairs and upstairs? After carefully examining the red jade pendant, the man with a horse face looked at Fang Jing and said. Line. Lead the way. Fang Jing nodded and picked up the cloth bag on the table. The man with a horse face smiled and turned around to go upstairs. In the second floor room, Fang Jing was waiting for the appraiser with a red jade pendant. Crunch, the door was pushed open, and a man in black clothes appeared in Fang Jing's eyes, followed by the man with a horse face. Wu Hong, 8th grade strength, with a very sharp eye. The man in Xuani entered the room, and the font presented in his eyes. He glanced at the information, but Fang Jing did not pay attention. As he stood up, the man with a horse face spoke up and said, Sir, this is the appraiser of our store, Master Wu. Hello, Fang Jing nodded as a gesture. Master Wu nodded coldly, and without further ado, he handed over the century-old red jade pendant from his family to the master in front of him. Taking the red jade pendant, Master Wu carefully examined it. With a movement of magic, a faint red light suddenly rose from the red jade pendant. This jade has been around for 100 years. Although it is just an ordinary red jade, it has absorbed spirituality and is quite good. Looking at the glowing red jade pendant, Master Wu immediately spoke out the information about the red jade pendant. What price do you want? Master Wu asked as he looked at Fang Jing. 150 taels of silver. Fang Jing opened his mouth and quoted the price. Listening to this price, Master Wu shook his head and said, Young man, although this jade pendant has a hint of spirituality, it is not worth 150 taels. How much does the master think is suitable? Fang Jing squinted and naturally quoted a higher price. Ruby is not a very rare jade. If it weren't for 100 years and a trace of spirituality, it would definitely not be worth money. 80 liang is suitable. Master Wu spoke up, took a dragon-slaying knife, and directly cut off nearly half of the price. 80 taels. Fang Jing's face turned black. This price can be said to have been cut down to the main artery. No, this is my family's ancient jade. 80 taels is too low. Fang Jing immediately shook his head. Master Wu smiled and said, Sir, our store recycles according to market conditions, and this price is already quite high. 80 taels is too low, at least 120 taels. Fang Jing spoke. 120 taels is not worth it, 85 taels, right. Master Wu shook his head and quoted a price again. Fang Jing said, 110 taels. 87. Fang Jing gritted his teeth and said, 100 taels. 88. 90 taels, this is the highest price. If the customer is not satisfied, our store cannot recycle it, said Master Wu as he looked at Fang Jing. Sold. Fang Jing nodded. Deal. The man with a hoarse face nodded and smiled. Master Wu followed and left the room. After deducting the silver for material purchases, Fang Jing also received 50.5 taels of silver. Leaving the store with material bags and silver, Fang Jing couldn't wait and rushed towards his home. After passing through the bustling market and burning incense, Fang Jing arrived at his own home. His home is not far from the location of the prison, and this house was also hard-earned by his parents. Although it's not big, it's already enough for him to be alone now. Enter the house and light the lights. Fang Jing arrived at the edge of the bed with a bag filled with materials. Open the bag and carefully take out the contents one by one. Cinnabar, realgar powder, phosphorus bone, rune paper, and various special materials. All of them were taken out, and a large part of the bed was spread out. 2 copies of each material were prepared. More than a dozen materials, what Fang Jing wants to make is a kind of magic spell. Black God Dharma Mantra. Looking at the materials on the bed, Fang Jing got up again and left the room. He walked into the kitchen, and in no time, he took out a stone jar, a stone pestle, and a bowl from the kitchen. Set aside, Fang carefully placed each material into a stone jar. Put in all 10 types of materials. Fang Jing started pounding hard with a stone pestle. After pounding a stick of incense, all the materials inside were crushed into powder. Colorful and emitting a strange glow, this is due to the phosphorus bone. Well, it's almost there. Looking at the fine sand-like powder inside, Fang Jing nodded with satisfaction. Then he poured all the powder from the stone jar into the bowl. Meanwhile, Fang Jing stood up and took out a sharp knife from a small cabinet in the room, directly cutting open his finger. Blood dripped down, and the mana was activated, accelerating rapidly. Soon, the fresh blood soaked the powder. Stir with a wooden stick, thoroughly blending with fresh blood. The colorful powder had turned into carbon black, and a strange smell filled the room. Fang Jing moved his nose, and the smell was really unpleasant. Not only unpleasant, but also very pungent. Is this really a sorcery? A thought came to mind, but soon Fang Jing suppressed it again. Regardless of whether he is an evil spell or not, as long as he can dispel Wei Zhongxian's spiritual consciousness. Put the talisman paper away, and Fang Jing began to take action. Fingers stained with powder fused with blood, a sharp pain came, and the magic moved slightly. Holding back the pain, Fang Jing began to write on the rune paper. Flexible fingers combined with focused expression. On the talisman paper, a strange pattern is presented. And this is the Black God Curse. Like ghosts and gods from the depths of the underworld, it gives people a chilling feeling at a glance. The last step falls, and the next second, the talisman shines. Fang Jing's face suddenly showed joy. But joy had not yet swept through his body and mind, and his expression instantly froze. Chi. A red light rose, and the black divine spell instantly disappeared in ashes. Fang Jing. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. I read Spring and Autumn. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5. I read Spring and Autumn. Looking at the ashes in front of him, Fang Jing's mood surged. It's okay, the first failure is very normal. Take a deep breath, adjust your mindset, take out the rune paper again, and use your magic to start writing for the second time. The magic gathers at the fingertips, and a faint light blooms. In a moment, the Black God spell took shape again. As the last step fell, Fang Jing's heart suddenly jumped. Chi. The red light rose again from the talisman, and the next second, the black god spell in his hand burned again, becoming ashes. Fang Zheng. How could this be? Watching the second talisman turn into ashes, Fang Zheng's whole body was in a bad state. There's no problem with the talisman. The steps are also correct. Why did it fail? Is it due to one's own mana? Wrinkled his brow, looking at the ashes in front of him, he was thinking about the steps just now. Where is the problem? Bow your head and ponder. The dim candlelight shone on the square face. Thinking about the steps just now, Fang Zheng still couldn't find where the problem was. The method is correct. But it's just not successful. Continue. Adjust your mindset, calm down the fluctuations in mana, and Fang Zheng takes out the rune paper again to start writing. Yongdu, Heavenly Prison. The third level prison of the Bingzi. On the straw mat, Wei Zhongxian suddenly opened his eyes. Why do you have a bad premonition? His pupils instantly opened, and Wei Zhongxian immediately stood up, his gaze cast towards the outside of the prison cell, his brows furrowed together. It's been so long without any movement, what exactly is this kid doing? Walking around the prison cell, Wei Zhongxian's brow twisted like a knot. I think there is still suspicion. After a moment of thought, Wei Zhongxian followed suit and sat down again. Close your eyes and continue to rest. Starry nights fill the sky. A bright moon hangs above the sky, shining on the land of Yongdu. Damn it. In the room, Fang Zheng was furious. In front of him, there were already many ashes. The raw materials in the stone jar have all been used up, but they still fail. Every time is a failure when the last step is almost successful. He has been hurt time and time again in his heart. Looking at the ashes in front of him, Fang Zheng's forehead had bulging veins. Continuously creating talismans, his mana has been exhausted. But the first black god spell, he still did not succeed. The steps have been changed several times, but still fail. If the black god spell fails, then he can't even refine the true blood of the Qilin. Wei Zhongxian's spiritual consciousness is definitely not something he can resist. A skinny camel is bigger than a horse. What is Wei Zhongxian's cultivation level? Being able to seize and give up with the primordial spirit is at least above the level of the 6th grade refining god, and even at the level of the 5th grade unity of heaven and humanity. Take out the bottle and look at the glowing Qilin true blood inside. The mood of the riot seems to have improved a bit. Take the last batch of raw materials, pour them into a stone jar and crush them again with a stone pestle. The same step, when all the materials are turned into powder and Fang is about to cut open his finger and drip blood, suddenly stops. No. All the steps are fine, could it be my blood problem? The effect of ordinary blood cannot reach the level of making magic spells. Would using essence blood be better? Looking at the powder in the stone jar, several thoughts flashed through Fang Zheng's mind. The prompt did not mention the use of essence blood. But they all failed before. There's no problem with the steps, there's no problem with the raw materials, that's all we have left. Blood. Black God Dharma Mantra. Blood is also one of the materials. The other materials are all correct. So it's his blood. There is a problem with the blood. Ordinary blood does not meet the requirements, perhaps because his cultivation is too low. In the early stage of refining 9th grade essence. The fresh blood in the body may be worse. After all, he is almost always in prison, and the yin and evil of prison also has a certain erosive effect on his body. My physique cannot be said to be strong, even a bit weak. This may be the key. Try using essence blood. The more he thought about it, the more likely he felt it was. Fang Zheng regained his confidence, cut open his fingers with the blade, and his magic worked, forcing out the essence and blood in his body. Essence blood. The foundation of human beings. Ordinary fresh blood and refined blood are not on the same level. Most people have very little blood essence in their bodies. Stepping into the cultivation of immortals and refining the 9th grade essence will increase the amount of essence and blood. This increase requires consideration from all aspects. Factors such as food, shelter, and how to cultivate. For example, what do the children of the big family in Yongdu eat? Tian Di Ling Shen, various spiritual medicines to nourish the body and build a strong foundation. Refining essence is the first step in cultivating immortality. It is also an important foundation step towards the immortal path. This realm is also the foundation of the road. If the foundation is unstable, it will be difficult for you to achieve great success. Of course, if there is any powerful divine object, it can also be improved day after day, but that kind of divine object is not something that ordinary people can expect. Even if it is available on the market, the price is still hesitant. For the sake of Qilin's true blood, Fang Zheng is willing to use his own essence and blood to make talismans. Shexiao Boda. Cultivating immortality is essentially a game between heaven and earth. Life is also a game. Fresh blood fell into the stone jar, fingertips, and a drop of brightly colored semen also forced into the jar. A drop of blood essence dripped down, and Fang Zheng's face turned slightly pale. Bring more. Dropped a drop of blood essence, Fang Zheng was afraid that it wasn't enough, so he decided to add more. If he fails, he will really lose both his wife and his soldiers. Continuous infusion. 1 drop. 2 drops. Under the candlelight, a square face turned exceptionally pale. White as a dead person. Most of the essence and blood in the body are forced out. A great loss of vitality. His face was as pale as paper. If it weren't for a little bit of cultivation to nourish more essence and blood, he might have already fallen down. Almost done. Mobilize a small amount of mana to heal the wound, and Fang Zheng stopped dripping. He can't drip anymore. If he drips again, he'll be dead. Healing the wound, a weak and powerless feeling swept across the whole body. Essence and blood are the foundation of the body. Consumed more than half at once, Fang Zheng felt a bit dizzy. Stir it well and thoroughly blend with the powder. Fang Zheng did not immediately start making symbols. His mana has not been restored yet, and his spirit have also been consumed a lot. He must restore it for a while. Dawn breaks. Light rises from the sky. Fang Zheng quietly opened his eyes, his face still so pale. Once prepared, he couldn't hold on anymore and just lay down to rest. A rest is a night. Ha! Take a breath and stand up weakly. As soon as I got out of bed, my body shook, my steps were too weak, and my body was hollowed out. The feeling of completely squeezing is the same. After drinking some water and feeling better, I looked at the fusion powder in the stone jar. Before resting, Fang Zheng used his last spell to protect it, which can preserve its effect. Please take a leave. After looking outside, Fang Zheng got dressed and left home. It took him 2 sticks of incense to arrive at the prison. It's just a little too late. I'll go, Fang Zheng. What's wrong with you? At the sight of the pale and papery square, several fellow prison guards were startled. It's okay, my body is a bit weak, just take care of yourself, Fang Zheng said weakly. A prison guard approached and looked at Fang Zheng with a puzzled look in his eyes, saying, weren't you all right when the shift ended yesterday? Oh, I understand. Did you go to the Spring Breeze Tower? Fang Zheng said. No, I don't. That must have been to Yihong Courtyard. Several companions and prison guards suddenly realized. An elderly prison guard approached and looked at Fang Zheng. Fang Zheng, although you are young, you still need to know how to exercise restraint. If you do this, your body will not be able to withstand it. Fang Zheng. Fang Zheng, looking at you like this, you have seriously overdrawn. Fang Zheng. The taste and essence of food, young people have tasted it for the first time. I understand, but you have also made it too powerful. Listening to the tiger and wolf words of the prison guards, Fang Zheng's forehead was lined with black lines. Chunfeng Tower, a home courtyard. Is Laozi that kind of person? I read about spring and autumn. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Success Charm. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Success Charm. A figure walked over while a few people were joking. Fang Zheng looked up. Wu Hua, 8th grade peak cultivation, ordinary and ordinary, lucky enough to break through 7th grade. In the eyes of the font, Fang Zheng stepped forward. Colonel. Fang Zheng spoke up, and the other prison guards also stopped teasing and approached one after another. This is their leading boss. One of the leaders of the C.Class Heavenly Prison, Wu Hua. There are 3 leaders in the C.Class Heavenly Prison. The leader of the guards, along with the leader of the prison guards, there is also a captain-in-chief who commands the guards and is the true ruler of the Class C prison. However, those important figures rarely appear unless something special happens. Fang Zheng, why is your complexion so bad? Wu Hua walked up to him and looked at Fang Zheng, whose face was as pale as paper, frowning and asking. There was a slight mistake in my cultivation, causing a clash of qi and blood. Colonel, I would like to take a few days off, Fang Zheng said, bowing his head. Let me see. Wu Hua reached out his hand and hit Fang Zheng's shoulder. Is the loss of Jingyuan so severe? Retracting his hand, Wu Hua looked at Fang Zheng. Just conditioning for a few days will do, said Fang Zheng. Give you 3 days off and take good care of yourself, Wu Hua said. Thank you, Colonel. Fang Zheng arched his hand and greeted several fellow prison guards before leaving the prison. Leaving the prison, Fang Zheng did not rush home, but went to the neighborhood market. After wandering around a few times, Fang Zheng walked into a herbal medicine store. Centennial ginseng has a good nourishing effect, which can enhance your physical fitness. Bai Chao Wan, in fact, is a pill made from ordinary medicinal materials, which is not as effective as century-old ginseng. The golden spear does not fall the pill, which can give you an hour of high combat power. Entering the herbal medicine store, Fang Zheng scanned around. Based on the prompts of various medicinal herbs, Fang Zheng screened them. I purchased some powerful nourishing herbs and spent nearly 10 taels in total. With pain in his heart, Fang Zheng returned home. Entering the kitchen, Fang Zheng boiled some medicinal herbs and drank them. After quickly absorbing the magic, his pale face regained a hint of redness. After dealing with the true blood of the Qilin, it seems like finding a way to make money is the best way. Taking a breath, Fang Zheng pondered in his heart. Practicing is very expensive. Going one step further requires more money to support the purchase of various resources. The cultivation level of children from big families is generally higher than that of other cultivators, which is because they have sufficient and powerful cultivation resources to support them. I feel like I have recovered a bit, and my mana has also reached its peak. Fang Zheng adjusted his mentality, took out the rune paper, and started making runes. A perfect outline is drawn with every stroke. Under the last tribe, Fang Zheng's heart instantly tightened. We have all failed before, just this last step. Don't be nervous, that's fake. Buzz. A ray of light rose, and in the next second, the talisman in front of me was pulled up by a mysterious force. A feeling that made his soul palpitate emanated from the talisman. In a moment, the light disappeared and the talisman fell. Success. Seeing that the talisman in front of him had not turned into ashes, Fang Zheng's face showed an uncontrollable joy. Not being excited is fake. The consecutive failures throughout the night caused his mentality to collapse. This time, we finally succeeded. To calm his excitement, Fang Zheng picked up the Black God charm and watched. With an extra shine, looking directly at the Black God talisman, Fang Zheng had a chilling feeling. Black God Mantra, which has a restraining effect on the primordial spirit. Activating the talisman can cause severe damage to the primordial spirit. Those with weak primordial spirits can be directly killed and destroyed. The font appeared in Fang Zheng's eyes, and looking at his masterpiece, Fang Zheng felt relieved, with a hint of redness on his face. Success. It also means that refining the true blood of the Qilin is not a problem. This talisman. I'm afraid it's enough, isn't it? Calm down and reflect. How powerful is Wei Zhongxian's strand of spiritual will? Fang Zheng is unclear. The cultivation of this kind of big-shot character directly surpasses that of the chief colonel of the third-tier prison. At least refining the gods, both the realm of heaven and humanity are possible. The sixth-grade refined spirit blends the will of the void soul into a solid state, and only the soul in this realm can be called the primordial spirit. Under the sixth grade, the primordial spirit is invisible and void. If one steps up, the difference will be earth-shattering. Ninth grade immortal path. One product, one heavy day. And these 9 grades are divided into upper third grade, middle third grade, and lower third grade. The 7th grade has crossed the 6th grade and has entered the ranks of the middle third grade from the lower third grade. The third-rank cultivators, countless people from the Great Yong dynasty, are in this ranks. Third grade, that's different. It already belongs to the intermediate force. And the third grade is truly about touching the immortal path of immortality. Above the first level, there is the legendary supreme true immortal. However, it's unclear whether there is one. Even if there is, it is not something that Fang Zheng can know. On the surface, he hasn't heard of it yet. Even today's Emperor Daong, the great emperor of the apocalypse. It's also a first-class product. However, with the blessing of imperial luck, this first grade can defeat over 99% of cultivators and even compete with the supreme immortal. During the reign of Emperor Daong, beacon smoke rose everywhere. Emperor Tianxi ignored the government. Rebels cause chaos and deceive people. Demons and demons roam the world in times of chaos. At the end of the day, the Daong dynasty still stood firm and could not be defeated. Why? The imperial luck is fundamental. If Emperor Tianxi does not die, the reign of Emperor Yong will not be destroyed. In the southern heavenly continent, there is only one true commander, De Yong. To conquer all nations and unify the southern sky. Although there are demonic and chaotic times and rebellious rebels, it is just a small wave. The former southern heavenly continent was home to countless nations. It is said in history that all nations and nations. And now, all nations have been destroyed, and only Daong dominates the southern sky. Starting from the northwest of the southern sky and sweeping across all countries, the foundation of the Daong dynasty is profound and unfathomable. For 1,000 years, after several generations of imperial rule, the southern heavenly continent was divided into 30.6 provinces and 70.2 prefectures. Although there may be occasional turmoil in a few prefectures, it is not a big deal for the background of the Daong dynasty. It is rumored that the reason why Emperor Tianxi ignored the court was to challenge the supreme immortal path and achieve true immortality. If successful, even if more than half of the prefectures in the imperial dynasty were in turmoil, it could be easily suppressed. Let's get to the point. True immortals are too far away from themselves. Refining the true blood of the Qilin and forging a powerful foundation is the current goal of Fang Zheng. It's better to make a few more copies. After thinking for a moment, Fang Zheng cleared out distractions and began to continue making symbols. If one is not enough, then only 2. Prepare more so that he can more securely eliminate Wei Zhongxian's trace of spiritual consciousness. The sun rises into the sky. The scorching sun shines on the land of Yongdu. A few hours had passed, and there were already more than 10 black divine spells in front of Fang Zheng. As I guessed, the root cause lies in the issue of blood. Replacing with blood essence, surprisingly smooth. Ha! The last talisman was successful, and Fang Zheng took a deep breath. Wiping the sweat off my forehead, I looked at the 18 black divine spells in front of me, and a faint smile appeared on my pale face. 18 black God Dharma mantra, this time, it stabilized. Eat first, then start. Arrange the talismans and set them aside, then follow them out. After half an hour, I was full of wine and food. The essence, spirit, and magic of Fang Zheng have also been restored almost. Lock the doors and windows tightly. The room was shrouded in darkness. On the bed, Fang Zheng took out a bottle containing the true blood of the Qilin and looked at it with a solemn expression. Twisted open the bottle, Fang Zheng unlocked his mana confinement. The next second, a surge of energy erupted like a flood breaking through the embankment. Up and down, with boiling qi and blood. The breath of true blood instantly dissipated. See font size. 3 layers of imprisonment. In the prison cell, Zhongxian, who had not moved for a long time, suddenly opened his eyes, and his cloudy eyes burst out with brilliance. TMD, I thought you didn't practice anymore, it's finally started. A smile appeared on his wrinkled face, and Zhongxian's suspended heart instantly relaxed. End of this chapter. Chapter 7. Destruction of the Primordial Gods, Distinctive Images Shaking Heaven and Earth. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7. Destruction of the Primordial Gods, Distinctive Images Shaking Heaven and Earth. Qi and blood churn. Soul tremors. As soon as the breath came out, the square heart began to beat uncontrollably. Dong! 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 The sound was like thunder, and all the qi and blood in my body were being pulled by the power of the Qilin true blood. Buzz, a faint layer of white light bloomed, and the next second, the square body was enveloped by the light. Under the suppression of magic, the abnormal image in the body was cleared. Ha! This thing is really amazing. I took a strong breath and wiped the sweat off my forehead. The lifting of the spell resulted in such a strange appearance. If this were to refine the true blood of the Qilin, I really don't know what kind of celestial phenomena it would trigger. Staring at the true blood of the Qilin in the bottle, Fang Zheng prepared the Black God spell. Take a deep breath and slowly pour out the fresh blood from the bottle. The purple and golden Kirin's true blood fell into his hand, and an infinite burning sensation erupted in an instant. The burning pain suddenly struck, and even with preparation in mind, Fang Zheng's face couldn't help but change slightly. Magic traction, unable to enter true health. Buzz. The next second, a black aura burst out from the Qilin's true blood. As fast as lightning. It is precisely the strand of primordial consciousness of Zhongxian. Approaching the center of the eyebrows, the next second, a black divine spell instantly blocked it. Ah! A mournful scream rang out, striking at the soul. The black air retreated and transformed into a phantom. Vaguely visible is the appearance of Zhongxian. The black god Dharma curse blocked Zhongxian's primordial consciousness. However, it has not been eradicated. Shoo! Fang Zheng will not give the opportunity to challenge again. His magical power is running, and he is like a black god spell rushing towards Zhongxian's primordial spirit. Damn it! His primordial spirit had an unsightly expression on his face, exhaling black energy and rushing towards the black god Dharma mantra. However, in the moment of collision, the black god Dharma mantra instantly eliminated the black energy attack and continued to charge towards Zhongxian's primordial spirit consciousness. Shoo, shoo, shoo. The weak magical power shook and emitted 5 black divine spells in one breath, directly enveloping Zhongxian's spiritual consciousness. Ah ah ah. A mournful scream kept ringing in the room. Under the attack of the black god curse, Zhongxian's primordial consciousness was completely at a disadvantage. With only a strand of primordial consciousness, it cannot resist the erosion of the black god spell. The phantom is getting weaker and weaker. Fang Zheng lifted his spirits and once again charged a black divine spell towards Wei Zhongxian's primordial consciousness. Black air permeates, and dim light blooms. In the moment of being shrouded, screams of agony rang out again. The Black God mantra specifically targets the primordial gods. Several spells attacked, and Wei Zhongxian's strand of primordial consciousness had reached the brink of destruction. Roar! A roar suddenly sounded, and a divine light burst forth, instantly tearing apart the black mist. The weak consciousness of the primordial spirit rushed out, and Wei Zhongxian's pupils looked at Fang Zheng. I have already discovered this place. Alright, even if we fight to destroy the primordial spirit, I will let you go down to the underworld together. As soon as the words fell, a golden flame burst forth and quickly burned. Wei Zhongxian's spiritual consciousness completely transformed into a golden flame, instantly rushing towards the square. The flames triggered by the power of the primordial spirit seemed to have no difference from real flames. Fang Zheng was startled and immediately threw out the black god curse to charge towards Wei Zhongxian, who had turned into a golden flame. Qi. The white smoke rose, and the black god spell was instantly burned through by the fire of the elemental god. The golden flame weakened, but still attacked him. Mad. Fang Zheng's heart sank and he rushed all the black divine spells towards Wei Zhongxian's spiritual consciousness in one breath. Exhausting all your mana, come quickly. Break it for me. A roar from the depths of his soul, Wei Zhongxian's voice transmitted to his mind. The next second, the golden light shines brightly, illuminating the room. The black god mantra was instantly eroded by the golden light, burned, and directly transformed into nothingness. Let's die together. A cold voice echoed in his ears, and just as Fang Zheng had regained consciousness, the golden flame had reached his forehead. As his pupils contracted, Fang Zheng had no time to make any resistance and was directly attacked by the golden flames. Entering from the center of the eyebrows, directly into the body. With a muffled groan, Fang Zheng's expression instantly became extremely painful. My soul seems to be roasting in flames. Severe pain. In front of me, it was dark and Fang Zheng appeared in a void. And in front of him was Wei Zhongxian's spiritual consciousness. Whoosh! Without saying a word, Wei Zhongxian's weak spiritual consciousness rushed towards Fang Zheng. Instinctively, Fang Zheng wanted to escape, but lost to Wei Zhongxian's speed and was quickly attacked. The fusion of spiritual consciousness leads to deeper pain. Bang! The next second, an explosion echoed through nothingness, the darkness disappeared, and Fang Zheng instantly opened his eyes. Puff! In the moment he opened his eyes, he simultaneously spewed out a mouthful of blood. His face turned pale. I almost fell down. His eyes were weak and powerless, as if his vitality had been greatly damaged. And in this moment, Yongdu Heavenly Prison. Within the 3-level prison of the C-class name. On the straw mat, Wei Zhongxian suddenly opened his eyes and spat out a mouthful of blood. Impossible, how could a 9th-grade soul be so strong? Wei Zhongxian's pupils dilated, like an earthquake. Blood spat out, and his lethargic spirit became even more lethargic. Damn it, I married for someone else. With extreme unwillingness and resentment in his eyes, Wei Zhongxian stood up forcefully, gritting his teeth as if about to break through the prison cell. But the next second, another mouthful of blood spat out. The anger in my eyes quickly dissipated. Shaking of the body. With a loud bang, Wei Zhongxian lay down completely and collapsed directly on the cold ground. The vitality fades away, and the skin withers at a visible rate to the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, he became a skin and bones all over. His body remained motionless, and his vitality was completely extinguished. It was obvious that Wei Zhongxian had completely died. The consciousness of the primordial spirit is shattered, affecting itself. Without magic and spiritual nourishment, even if true immortals descend, they are powerless to return to heaven. How did this guy lie down? At the entrance of the prison cell, the prison guard in charge of patrol stopped and looked at the cell where Wei Zhongxian was being held. Watching the body on the ground motionless, the prison guard took a closer look. Extinction of vitality. This is clearly already dead and cannot die anymore. Dead. The prison guard still has some disbelief. The prisoners held in this cell are the most terrifying and powerful of the Class C heavenly prison. Wasn't everything lively before? Okay, suddenly it hung up. After careful examination, the prison guard took out the special key from his body and opened the cell. He walked up to the dead body of Wei Zhongxian and kicked it with his foot. Not moving at all. It seems like he's really dead. As the head said, this prisoner is different. No, we have to report to the captain. Confirmed to have completely hung up, the prison guard followed out of the cell, closed the door again, and hurriedly left. It's so close, this demon's spiritual consciousness is even stronger than I imagined. Looking at the true blood of the Qilin in his hand, Fang Zheng let out a breath. The 18 black god spells were almost unstoppable even after being exhausted. Fang Zheng could never have dreamed that Wei Zhongxian's spiritual consciousness was so terrifying. It seems that Wei Zhongxian's primordial spirit is not too strong, it should be because the talisman I made is too weak. Thinking about the factors, Fang Zheng quickly identified them. Mana and essence blood. This should be one of the reasons. If it were stronger, it might be just a spell that could handle it. Unfortunately, that cost is not something he can afford. Mana and blood essence are also hard conditions that cannot be dealt with, they are just so weak. How to win in the end, even Fang Zheng doesn't know. Jump up, explode, and then it's over. You can refine true blood now. Abandoning the distractions in his mind, Fang Zheng shifted his gaze and landed on the Qilin true blood in his hand. The true blood of the Qilin. Blazing hot, boiling hot. The true blood of the Qilin contains immense power, which can strengthen the physical body, forge an unparalleled foundation, and possess the nature of seizing heaven. As the font appeared in his eyes, Fang Zheng raised his hand and the large drop of Qirin's true blood instantly fell into his mouth. Gulu swallowing it in one gulp, the next second, a surge of energy erupted instantly. Bang! The scorching sensation instantly swept across his body, and his skin turned red in an instant. The true blood of the Qilin's body rushed like thunder. Rushing through Fang Zheng's body, flipping the river and overturning the sea. Roar! At this moment, behind him, a virtual figure of a Qilin appeared, emitting a deafening roar. Tianxingyuan. The scorching sun was in the sky, accompanied by the roar of the unicorn. The next second, over the north city of Yongdu, dark clouds immediately covered the sky, and terrifying lightning shuttled and wreaked havoc. A powerful Qirin phantom appeared deep in the sky. The unusual image of Beiqing instantly caught the attention of everyone in Yongdu city. Oh my goodness, what is that? It's like a unicorn. Hiss, the legendary mythical beast that rivals true immortals. Isn't it that a Qilin is going to cross the tribulation in Yongdu city? Yongdu was shaken, and all cultivators stopped to observe and discuss. The virtual shadow of the Qilin in the depths of the sky has caused a strong impact and shock to all cultivators. As they raised their heads, the ethereal figure of the Qilin standing in the towering sky seemed to be within reach, and their hearts were shaken. Roar! A terrifying roar exploded again, and above the sky, the Qirin void shadow emitted a roar that surpassed thunder, sweeping both inside and outside Yongdu, shaking the sky for thousands of miles. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Rebirth and Transformation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8. Rebirth and Transformation Yongdu. Imperial City, Heavenly Clear Palace. Spiritual energy permeates, and immortal mist shrouds. A clear palace in the sky, like a fairyland. Shua. In the depths of Tianxingyuan Palace, on the top floor of a 30-story tower, a figure suddenly appeared. He is a middle-aged man wearing a black water robe, with dragon patterns intertwined. Between his eyebrows, he exudes a supreme aura. He steps on the pavilion and gazes into the sky, seemingly able to penetrate everything. And he was the ruler of the great Yong dynasty, Emperor Tianxi. Carrying his back with one hand, his gaze cast upon the faint and elusive Kirin phantom in the sky, his eyebrows furrowed. Buzz, at this moment, the air on the top floor of the tower shook like a calm lake, casting a stone and creating ripples. The next second, another figure appeared in front of Emperor Tianxi. Dressed in white, with black hair draped over his shoulders, his powerful aura rippled. What does I Ching think of the Kirin in this world? Emperor Tianxi did not turn back and asked with his back to the middle-aged man in white. The middle-aged man in white also cast his gaze towards the sky, gazing at the ethereal figure of the Qilin that appeared deep within the 10,000 zhang sky. He pondered slightly and said, "Your Majesty, in my opinion, this is not the true immortal Qilin. If the true immortal Qilin breaks into the capital of Yong, my great Yong's luck will inevitably experience turbulence. However, there is no turbulence at all now. I believe that this should only be an anomaly produced by something related to the Qilin." Oh. Emperor Tianxi turned around and looked at the middle-aged man in white in front of him, saying, "What you said makes some sense. But after making such a big noise, I think we should investigate carefully, don't you think?" "Your Majesty is absolutely right, I will send someone now," the man in white nodded and said. "Go ahead, the Heavenly Supervision Department oversees everything. I don't want any heresy to appear, otherwise it would be your dereliction of duty." Looking at the man in white, Emperor Tianxi said calmly, "I will strictly abide by the imperial decree." The man in white arched his hand. Following that, the body of the man in white quickly disappeared into the pavilion like mist. At the same time, the illusion of the sky also instantly dissipated, and everything returned to calm. Standing in place, Emperor Tianxi gazed into the sky, as if his gaze could penetrate through heaven and earth. It was a long time before he regained his senses. "Someone here." The voice rang out in the open pavilion, and the next second, a man dressed in black appeared out of nowhere, kneeling on one knee and bowing his head. "On. Grand Master Xuanlu has come to the Tianxingyuan Hall. I have something important to attend to. Here." The man in black responded, and the next second, his figure disappeared out of thin air. The illusion of the vast sky disappeared. However, the city of Kuyong has already exploded. The appearance of the Qilin in the world has shocked all cultivators. For a while, it became the hottest topic in Yongdu. Some people believe that this is a sign of auspiciousness, while others believe that the appearance of the Qilin in the world is a sign of disaster and will shake the luck of the Emperor Yong. There are various opinions. In the room, Fang sat cross-legged on the bed. Her fair skin suddenly turned red like a soldering iron. 108,000 pores around the body spewed out breath, and a white mist filled the room. The mist derived from powerful qi and blood will surely surprise anyone who comes here again. On the bed, the square remains motionless. Red all over, as if transforming into a soldering iron. A strong heat emanated from his body, and the room was blazing hot. Sitting cross-legged on the bed, the square is like a sculpture, motionless. White air continuously spewed out from the pores all over the body, and there was more mist in the room. The bright moon rises into the sky, and night falls. In the room, Fang Zheng, who had not moved for a long time, finally had a slight reaction. His eyes instantly opened, and the next second, the mist that filled the room seemed to be pulled back to his body through his pores. The skin, as red as a soldering iron, instantly turns into a normal skin color. "Ha! Spit out a mouthful of turbid air, then move forward and get off the bed." Pai Li Pa, as soon as he landed, a stir-fried bean-like sound came from within his body. "Move my arms and arms." This voice is even stronger. Within the body, the powerful power of qi and blood roams, and the resulting mana is several times more than before. From the early stage of the 9th grade, it leaped to the peak of the 9th grade in an instant, only one step away from the 8th grade. Undoubtedly, it is the true blood of the Qilin. Just swallow it and it will have such an effect. I moved my muscles and bones all over, feeling a refreshing sensation. The strength inside the body is very strong, and the previous weakness is also swept away. Compared to before, there is a complete gap between heaven and earth. The mana derived from qi and blood in the body has skyrocketed by more than 10 times, and the lost essence and blood have already been compensated for. For the first time, Fang Zheng felt like he could blow the sky with just one punch. Of course, this was ultimately his illusion. But it can also be considered a rebirth. At least, among the 9th grade, his current qi, blood, and magical power are even more terrifying than the descendants of aristocratic families who have been taking various spiritual items for years. And this is just the beginning. The power of Qilin's true blood is far more powerful than imagined. A divine beast that drives alongside the real dragon, with a drop of true blood, its power is terrifying. After calming down, I became familiar with the surging power in my body. Fang Zheng used his magic to explore the true blood inside his body. Inside his body and deep in his heart, Kirin's true blood condensed into a ball hidden in his heart. A powerful aura overflowed from the Kirin's true blood. Fang Zheng felt that if he could completely refine the true blood of the Qilin, not to mention breaking through the 8th grade, even the 6th grade was not a luxury. Every time the heart beats, the Qilin true blood deep in the atrium delivers a force that spreads throughout the body. The rapid growth of one's own qi and blood is much better than taking some big tonifying pills. Natural absorption, I'm afraid it won't take more than a decade to refine. Retracting his mind, Fang Zheng took a deep breath. 99% of the Kirin's true blood is present, and the changes in its body are only a result of that 1% of its true blood. He needs to work hard to refine more power within his true blood. After natural refinement, even the yellow cauliflower will cool down. In a world full of evil, ghosts know if accidents will come knocking. Absorbing true blood, completely forging one's own supreme foundation, and using the power of true blood for oneself is the key. Thoughts are like electricity, instantly outlining a blueprint. First, slowly absorb the energy and then find a way. Feeling certain in his heart, Fang Zheng sat down on the bed again, using his mental skills and wandering his magic, slowly absorbing it. One night passed. The second day. In the morning, Fang Zhengyu opened his eyes in a secluded manner. He didn't grow much overnight. However, the aura has stabilized. In the heart, the true blood of the Qilin remained unchanged. One night, he didn't absorb much true blood power. Following this mode, absorbing true blood and forging an unparalleled foundation, his path is still long. Mainly because my mental skills are too low. Level. The techniques practiced by Fang Zheng are all a type of bad street. Advanced techniques are not something that a small prison guard can handle. To achieve advanced magic techniques, one must first have resources. The first priority of resources is wealth. The price of an advanced spell is far beyond his affordability. The Dharma technique is not effective. If it continues like this, it may become more dangerous as time goes on. Getting off the bed, Fang Zheng frowned. Kirin's true blood, 99% of its power has not been absorbed yet. He used half of his mana to barely block the breath overflowing from his true blood. If you encounter a high-level cultivator, I'm afraid his tricks are dangerous. Pifu is innocent, he harbors a guilty conscience. Although it has been completely transformed now, its strength is still among the lower class in Yongdu. In Yongdu City, you can easily bump into big shots. He knows about yesterday's anomaly. If someone knows they have true Qilin blood in their body, how can they still live? It's good to divide the body into 5 horses seeking support. End of this chapter. Chapter 9. Tianxingyuan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Tianxingyuan. The rest time is always so fast. These days, Fang Zheng has been staying at home. Continuously absorbing the power of true blood with dedication, although it has not yet broken through the 8th grade, it is still much better than before. Magic cover up, it can cover up the breath of true blood. Take a breath and get out of bed. After 3 days of hard work, my true blood is still so much, and I haven't consumed much. The true blood in his body is equivalent to a treasure, and what he excavates is only the tip of the iceberg. It's time to go to work. After tidying up his clothes, Fang Zheng strode out of the house. Soon, Fang Zheng arrived at the heavenly prison. Along the way, what Fang Zheng heard the most was the strange image of the Qilin a few days ago. What a big fuss this matter is. Fang Zheng's heart was heavy. I don't know how Zhongxian. Looking up towards the direction of the prison, Fang Zheng squinted his eyes. Just as he was about to lift his leg and walk towards the prison, a prison guard approached Fang Zheng and said, red light on his face, young people are young people. They recover quickly. Fang Zheng. Brother Su, don't joke anymore. I'm a serious person. Well, I know. The jailer nodded. Fang Zheng. By the way, has anything happened in the prison these days? Fang Zheng changed the topic and asked as he looked at his companion. A prisoner of Class C died, the prison guard replied. A prisoner died. Who? Fang Zheng looked at him and asked. Prisoner. 98, it seems so. 98. Upon hearing these words, Fang Zheng's heart shook. If he remembers correctly, it was Zhongxian in cell 98. Zhongxian died. Is it convict 98 from a 3-story cell? Fang Zheng suppressed the waves in his heart and asked as he looked at his companions. Nonsense, that must be true, the jailer nodded. Bang, upon receiving a positive answer, Fang Zheng's heart once again stirred up waves. Do you know how to die? Fang Zheng blinked and asked after regaining consciousness. It seems like he died suddenly, the prison guard pondered for a moment and said. Suddenly died suddenly. Fang Zheng lowered his head and his gaze flickered. Looking up at his fellow prison guard, he spoke again and said, is it clear when he died? Prisoner. The day before yesterday, it seems like you suddenly died while on leave. That day was also when the Qilin anomaly appeared in the sky of Yongdu. It's strange to say that shortly after this guy died, a strange appearance of the Qilin appeared. I really don't know if there was any connection, the prison guard said with a smack. Fang Zheng felt a chill in his heart, but remained calm on the surface. He looked at the prison guard and said, it's probably just a coincidence. Yes, if this guy had anything to do with the Qilin Anonymous, he probably wouldn't have brought him here. The prison guard nodded but didn't mind. By the way, how was the body disposed of? Fang Zheng asked as he looked at his fellow prison guard. Reported to the colonel, and was taken away by the personnel of the Heavenly Supervision Bureau on the same day. He was taken away by the people of the Heavenly Supervision Bureau. Fang Zheng lowered his head. You're so concerned, isn't it related to you? The prison guard looked at Fang Zheng and asked with a smile. No, I'm just curious, Fang Zheng pretended to be calm and said with a smile. Let's go, hurry up. He patted the shoulder of his fellow prison guard and walked away with a meteor shower. The prison guard didn't pay much attention and followed Fang Zheng towards Jianmao Field. Quickly, after finishing the task, Fang Zheng's first task was to inspect the cell where Zhongxian was being held. Looking at the empty prison cell, there was no figure of Zhongxian inside, and his heart completely sank. Zhongxian has died. A stone in his heart also fell. The original plan was to secretly kill this old demon, but now there is no need for it. The person has already hung up. So, the secret of Kiran's true blood is completely hidden. As long as you are careful in the future, there will be no problem. Ha! Spitting out a mouthful of turbid air, Fang Zheng turned his head and left. The work is very boring. Fang Zheng continued to fish as usual. Patrol the prison cells and deliver food to the prisoners. In the afternoon, as the shift was about to end, Fang Zheng came to several prison guards who were playing games, a very ordinary game. Draw lots. Fang Zheng, do you want to come and play? An elderly prison guard looked up at Fang Zheng and asked. No, I don't have money. Fang Zheng shook his head and refused. You kid, don't always go to places like Tianxingyuan. You need to pay attention to your health, the old prison guard joked. Fang Zheng. That's right, Xiaofang. You're still young, you have to earn money and marry a wife in the future. Don't keep going to the fireworks alley and willows. Occasionally, it's okay. Don't go there every day, it can't be tolerated. How many people are joking and making fun of each other? Fang Zheng had a black line on his head and was about to leave when he suddenly thought of something. He looked at an elderly prison guard and asked, Uncle Lin, do you know where the largest Taobao site is in Yongdu City? Taobao. A few people looked up and looked at Fang Zheng in surprise. Do you still like Taobao? The elderly prison guard looked at Fang Zheng with a surprised expression on his face. I want to give it a try, Fang Zheng nodded. Xiao Fang, that's not something that people like us can afford to play with. One mistake, we lost all our underwear. Lin Shuyu looked at Fang Zheng and said with a long focus. That's right, that kind of place is not something we can play with, reminded another prison guard. It's okay, I'm just curious and want to go see it, Fang Zheng said. Then you go to Tianxingyuan, which is the largest Taobao district in Yongdu, located on Nanqing Beixiang Street. Looking at Fang Zheng's words, Uncle Lin said a name. Tianxing Garden. Nanqing Beixiang Street. Thank you, Uncle Lin. Fang Zheng nodded and took note of the address. At the moment when the chieftain left the prison, Fang Zheng paid for a carriage and groom and headed straight to the Heavenly Star Garden. The distance is over 10 kilometers, and if you walk there, it will also delay time. As night gradually fell, the southern city was ablaze with lights. There is no curfew in Yongdu, and at night, it is even more lively here. People come and go on the streets. Nanqing is also one of the busiest areas in Yongdu. Getting off the carriage, Fang was looking at the building in front of him. There are many people coming and going. Above in front of him hangs a huge plaque. Tianxingyuan. The strokes are swift and powerful, and at first glance, they are not written by ordinary people. Tianxingyuan. The largest Taobao site in Yongdu City. Those who set up stalls here are cultivators with cultivation. Among them, there are also powerful cultivators. Fang Zheng didn't have much knowledge about Tianxing Garden, so he inquired with other fellow prison guards before learning some news about it. Here, there are many rare treasures, babies, there are even powerful treasures. Fake goods, more. Whether one can find the treasure or not depends entirely on one's eyesight and experience. Some people make windfalls, while others spend all their money buying counterfeit goods. Here, once something is sold, there is no return or exchange. The Daong law also has relevant legal protection. If you buy fake goods, then you can only accept the consequences. Unless you have the strength to challenge the laws of the Daong dynasty. But this kind of person may not have been born. A plaque with a hint of Taoist charm, carved from millennium-old redwood, has a certain value. You can take it down and exchange it for some money. Looking at the plaque, the font presented in my eyes. Fang Zheng withdrew his gaze and looked at the bustling Tianxing Garden. With his ability to perceive everything, this was his paradise. After tidying up his clothes, Fang Zheng strode towards the Tianxing Garden. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Geng Jin. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. Chapter 10 Geng Jin. A piece of magic weapon fragment has lost all its spiritual energy and is no longer effective. A fake spirit wood, actually a rotten wood cultivated and neutralized by magic, has no egg. Use a piece of jade shard has a little bit of value. A seemingly good cauldron is actually a facade, with no functional value other than decoration. Stepping into the Tianxingyuan garden, Fang Zheng looked at the various items in front of the vendors on both sides in the crowd. At a glance, 80.9% of them are fake goods. What's even more outrageous is that these counterfeit goods are also incredibly expensive. Although it may not necessarily be the transaction price, the price that can be released also makes people regress. Stepping forward, Fang Zheng looked at the information of each item in the crowd. A piece of graphite crystal stone, don't be deceived by its appearance. In fact, a small part of it is Geng gold, although only a small part is valuable. Approaching a vendor, Fang Zheng stopped and squatted down, his gaze fixed on a stone in front of him. The appearance is pitch black, like black pebbles. Geng Jin. Fang Zheng's heart twitched. 5 elements essence stone. This is a valuable thing. Although only a small portion, the price is astonishing. The excellent material for casting magic treasures, with the addition of Geng gold to a magical artifact, is definitely of top-notch quality. The magic gathered in his eyes, and Fang Zheng couldn't see it. Even if he reached out and touched it, he didn't feel anything at all. But he believes in his own abilities, and if he can't find out, that's not absolute. The vendor was a middle-aged man, and as he looked up, the information about the middle-aged man also appeared in his eyes. Wu Zheng, with the highest cultivation level of 8th grade and cunning mind, it is best to be careful when dealing with this person. If you are not careful, you may be tricked. How do you sell this stone? Fang Zheng withdrew his gaze and asked with his fingers towards the black pebble the size of a palm in front of him. 10 taels of gold. The vendor glanced square and directly quoted a price. A piece of amethyst stone, do you want to sell 10 taels of gold? Fang Zheng looked at the man and frowned. This is a top quality or unearthed from the concentrate yard, it's very cheap at this price, the vendor replied as he looked at Fang Zheng. It's too expensive. Fang Zheng shook his head. If you really want to buy, you can give me a refund, the vendor looked at him. 10 taels of silver, I'll take it. Fang Zheng held the dragon-slaying knife in his hand and killed it at a fierce price. 10 taels of silver. The vendor's face instantly turned black. No way. Without hesitation, the vendor shook his head and refused. Then let me hear your price, Fang Zheng said calmly. First negotiate, then ask for the price. Taobao, prices are not fixed. At least 80 taels of silver, the vendor pondered and quoted a price. It's still too expensive. Fang Zheng shook his head and looked at the stone. He raised 3 fingers and said, 30 taels of silver. 32. The vendor pondered. Fang Zheng continued to speak, the price is not low anymore. This is just graphite crystal, not the best ore. It's not certain if it's all graphite crystal inside. Even if it's a positive price outside, it's only around this price. Add 10 more taels, we'll sell. The vendor looked at Fang Zheng and quoted a price again. No problem, I'll take it. Fang Zheng nodded. Taking out the money, Fang Zheng delivered it directly and held the stone in his hand. Following, Fang Zheng left. He has almost used up his money, and there are still more than 10 taels of silver left. Here, he may not be able to afford anything. Let's sell the ore in his hand first. Stepping out of the Tianxingyuan garden, Fang Zheng recently arrived at a nearby store that was buying gemstones. There are too many shops like this near Tianxingyuan. Sir, do you want to buy or sell something? As soon as he entered the store, a young man in gray approached and looked at Fang Zheng, asking. Sell. Fang Zheng uttered a word. Oh, I don't know what the customer wants to sell. The young man's eyes lit up and he looked at Fang Zheng and asked. This. Fang Zheng took out the ink crystal he had just purchased. Ink crystal stone. The young man looked at the stone in Fang Zheng's hand and recognized it at a glance. Frequent interaction with various gemstones naturally enhances one's eyesight. This is not graphite crystal, but a stone of Geng gold, Fang Zheng said. Geng Jin. The young man's heart skipped a beat. The other people in the store also cast their eyes. Ink crystal stone is not too expensive, but it's different from Geng gold. Sir, are you sure? The young man regained his senses and carefully looked at the stone in Fang Zheng's hand. He didn't believe it was a stone of Geng gold. He still knows Geng Jin and Mo Jing. Even a cultivator can understand this gap. Of course, this is from my ancestors, and the Geng gold is inside. Fang Zheng nodded confidently. Ancestral lineage. The young man looked at Fang Zheng in surprise and paused for a moment. Since that's the case, then we need to carve out the stone. However, my guest, I need to remind you that if you carve out the stone without Geng gold, the value will be discounted by half. Looking at Fang Zheng, the young man said. Of course, I know. Fang Zheng nodded. Okay, guest, please follow me. Seeing this, the young man didn't say anything and turned around. Fang Zheng also followed behind. If you want to open a stone, you must be present in person. In case you switch packages, no one can say for sure. This is also the rule. It looks like a gambling stone from a past life. However, what's different is that this is not an ordinary jade, but a 5 elements essence stone. Following the young man into the room, Fang Zheng looked around. The room is not large. There is a table in the middle. There is a metal tool on top. There are huge metal gears. And this is the magic weapon specifically used for carving stones. Input mana, even the hardest ore can be cut open. Of course, if the magic is strong enough, one's own strength is enough to cut open the ore. Taking the stone, he drew a line on it and nodded. The young man then placed the stone under the magic cutting machine. ZZ. Mana input, sharp metal gears rapidly rotate, sparks splatter everywhere, and the pitch-black graphite crystals are quickly cut through the gaps. Both eyes were fixed on the ink stone in front of them, and the room was silent. My guest, it seems that you. The young man was about to speak when he suddenly stopped talking. A wisp of platinum appeared in the center of the graphite crystal, and a sharp aura emanated. Pa! The young man clapped his hand on the magic cutting machine, and the sharp magic gear instantly stopped rotating. There is really Geng Jin. Looking at the wisp of platinum, the young man's heart skipped a beat. Fang Zheng's heart also relaxed. There was a hint of joy in my eyes. There is indeed Geng gold. Although there is only a small portion, a small amount of Geng gold is enough to earn him several times or even more in return. Upon careful examination, it was confirmed that it was Geng gold. The young man immediately cautiously took out the stone, drew a cutting line on it again, infused mana, and continued cutting. The time for a cup of tea. Under the precise cutting of the young man, the Geng gold inside the graphite crystal finally showed its full appearance. All the Geng gold stones are about 1/3 the size of graphite crystals. Although it is much smaller in size, its value is not comparable to that of graphite crystal. Such a small piece of Geng gold, this value, even young men dare not directly quote. My guest, there is indeed Geng gold, and I am awkwardly impressed. The young man spoke as he looked at a small piece of Geng gold in front of him. Let's give a quote, Fang Zheng said calmly, suppressing his joy in his heart. Geng gold. This thing is very precious. It is also very rare on the market. This sum is enough to make him wealthy. Please wait a moment, I need to calculate the weight. The young man nodded and then picked up the gold coin to start weighing. For a moment, Fang Zheng left the shop and looked at the night sky with a brilliant smile on his face. A small piece of Geng gold was sold for 105 taels of gold. This transaction directly earned him a lot of money. Looking at the Tianxingyuan garden, Fang Zheng once again strode towards it with great strides seeking support. End of this chapter.